Everyone ready?
Yes.
All right. So good evening, class. We are team numero uno. I am CJ. This is Peter, Patrick, and Russ. Can any of you tell me by a show of hands who knows Jack Welch? Yeah? All right.
Okay, that's a pretty good number there. So for those who are unfamiliar with Jack Welch, he was born in 1935 in Peabody, Massachusetts. That makes him 78 years old and also an East Coaster. And so we're going to hear his distinct accent a little bit in some of the videos we watch later. At the age of 22, he graduated from the University of Massachusetts with a degree in chemical engineering, and then immediately followed that up by going to the University of Chicago, where he graduated with a master's in science and a PhD. In that very same year of 1960, he took his first job at General Electric in the chemical and engineering plastics department, and that began his legendary 41-year career at General Electric. He's currently worth approximately $417 million, and he goes by the trademark of the Welch Way. Now, the Welch Way is this idea that great leaders are not born, great leaders are built. And the Welch Way is a management system that provides teams with a playbook and proven tools so that they can go out and become great leaders. What exemplifies his career and why he's considered one of the quintessential CEOs of the modern era and of our time was due to his tenure, 20 years as CEO at the helm of General Electric, the world's largest corporation. Russ is going to tell us a little bit more about that.
So as we just heard, he started his career at GE in 1960. By 1971, he was promoted to VP. In 1979, he was then promoted to vice chairman. And then in 81, he was promoted to CEO. When he took over in 1981, he was, the company sales were at 28 billion, and 14 billion was their market value. When he retired in 2001, they had a sales of 410 billion and a market value of 16 billion. If you're doing the math, that's a 4,000% increase in their share value. So he was a very extraneous type of manager. Everything in the company, that is every piece of hardware, every organization, every manager, every employee had to have a net value to the company. And he learned this practice from his mom. And we'll have a little bit of story for that.
Now, similar to many of us, Jack Welch really idolized his mother. In fact, he learned so many things during his childhood from his mom. His mom was not only one of his best friends, but also a teacher. A story in particular that I'd like to share with all of you is from his book, Straight from the Gut. This story is from his senior year in high school. So in his senior year, he was the co-captain of the hockey team. They were down to their final game. They were doing quite well during the season, but during the last game, they were playing their arch rival, Beverly High School. The team played very passionately, and they played hard, but in the end, Jack Welch's team still lost. Out of frustration and anger, Jack Welch flung his hockey stick across the arena and skated off to the locker room. But little did he know, his mother, Grace Welch, came storming into the locker room with a bright floral dress on. By this time, As you can imagine, most of the other guys were staring, just watching what was going to happen. And his mother came up to him and just screamed, "You punk! If you don't know how to lose, you'll never know how to win. And if you don't understand this, you shouldn't even be playing." And as you guys can imagine, that's a very humiliating instance for Jack Welch. But however, through this instance, Jack Welch really learned a life lesson. In fact, he goes on to say that his mother is one of the most influential people in his life. She taught him how to, quote, "face reality as it is, not as it was or as you wish it to be." Now, in the following video, if you could try and identify what exactly Jack Welch means by empowering employees.
The facts are, if a leader doesn't engage their employees, employee engagement, getting them to understand the purpose of why they're there, and to believe in the purpose, and to buy into it with their heart and their souls, as well as their minds, a leader is not a leader. So that's not going to change no matter what happens.
So as you can see through the video, Jack Welch really believed in empowering and engaging his employees. So what he means by that is making sure they understand the purpose and the ultimate goal of not only their team, but also the organization. Through empowering your employees, you build up confidence in them, and it also ultimately shapes the end goal of what they're trying to accomplish. This ties in very closely with the reading from Mahavani in chapter 1, where it says, quote, "A leader is a person who influences individuals within an organization, helps them establish goals, and guides them towards the achievement of their goals, thereby allowing them to be effective." And now I'll turn it over to Patrick to talk a little bit about level 5 leadership.
So as we've learned in Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, a level 5 leader is defined as the highest level of executive capabilities. We believe Jack Welch is a level 5 leader. Now in the video we're about to watch, see if you can pinpoint some of the characteristics and qualities that Jim Collins talks about in his book, Good to Great.
You fiercely fight to get the very best all the time. You're constantly coaching. You're constantly raising the bar. You're trying to get better and better performance. And people that aren't delivering, you ask them to leave. But you don't fire them. You take them out, you explain to them why they don't fit in this particular strategy. And you give them a new job. Meetings, reviews, watching their behavior. For example, when somebody comes in for an acquisition, I always started out with, "No, bad idea." And I wanted to see how they fought back, how much they cared about it, how much they would work on it, what they would put on the line to deliver it. You can test people that way, see their commitment to the issue.
Okay, so clearly Jack Welch had a very high level of engagement with his employees. And I also think, similarly to how our guest speaker talked about earlier tonight, he was firm but fair. And by doing this, he was able to draw the best out of his employees by continually, as he said, continually raising the bar. Now, level 5 leaders they're a study in duality. They're modest and willful, but they're also humble and fearless. And we believe Jack Welch has all those qualities, and Candace is going to explain a little bit more.
So, as a personal quote from Jack Welch, "I was never the smartest person in the room. From the first person I hired, I was never the smartest person in the room." And that's a big deal. And if you're going to be a leader, and you're going to be the smartest person in the room, you're going to have a big problem. So this quote exhibits just one of the reasons why Jack Welch is a 5-level leader. He possessed the knowledge to know, he showed the humility to know the difference between channeling his ego away from his natural self and pushing it to the larger goal of building a great company. He made the right decision by hiring a smarter person and the best job that they can do. And because of this, he fostered creativity and innovation in the GE organization. Now I'm going to go off to our final video of the night, and this is going to explain what Jack Welch's most important piece of advice.
Be yourself. Absolutely don't try and be somebody else. one of the directors. I had been appointed to the board of directors of GE. And the first board meeting, I went in with my white shirt, all my nice suit. I acted quietly and I behaved a certain way, and I was not the chairman then. There were several waiting to be chairman. And the position that he took was, Jack, after the first dinner, called me aside and said, let me tell you something. That wasn't you today. Be yourself, which was outspoken, which was saying what you think. I went back to being myself. Don't try and package yourself in some other uniform.
So as Jack has mentioned, his most important piece of advice is to be yourself. Look, you are the best at being you. Learning to love your natural self and being able to cultivate your natural abilities is easier said than done, especially when we live in a world that is constantly reminding us that our natural self is inadequate. To be yourself, you have to believe in yourself first. As quoted by E. Cummings, who was a sociology major and a sociology and political science professor at Harvard, it takes courage to grow up and to be who you really are. The importance of developing your courage to be yourself and eventually creates the type of leader that you will become today. And that type of leader will teach and influence others around you to do the same. And because of this, it creates a continuous positive cycle, and it can start as you as a leader. Now I'm going to pass it off to Russ.
So in Nahavandi chapter 6, we learned that Jack Welch specifically was named in Nahavandi as a transformational leader. What is a transformational leader? A transformational leader includes three factors: charisma, inspiration, intellectual stimulation, and individual consideration. This is what Nahavandi writes. When these three are combined, a large-scale change can be incorporated. So, since he's retired from GE in 2001, Jack Welch has still been very active in the business community. There is now the Jack Welch Business Institute. He's also a guest lecturer at the MIT Sloan School of Management, as well as many other speaking engagements globally. So as we leave this evening, we'd like to leave you with 4 points and the 4 takeaways. These are the 4 E's, which include energy, which energizes, edge, and education. Second is strong leaders have integrity and character. They're trustworthy. Third, over-communication. Don't ever under-communicate. Make sure your objectives and emphasize your clear goals. Fourth and finally, be a spark plug. Lead with a balanced energy and articulate your motivational desires. Thank you very much.